Nintendo's first financial report of 2026 covering the end of 2025 just released, and oh boy, is there a lot to sift through. Nintendo is succeeding overall. They are doing so well. They are shattering records. This is the fastest selling console of all time. The Switch 2 is now at 17 million units sold. Bonkers. In just 7 months, the Switch 2 has outsold the entirety of the Wii U's life cycle. What an achievement to actually pass one of the worst performing consoles of all time. And I'm not being sarcastic there at all. Back when the Switch released, it was a huge deal for us fans to see the Switch finally surpass the Wii U within the year that it did. Not necessarily because of the Switch and the Wii U, but because of how awful that era was for Nintendo, and just to see them be back, it felt great. So let's not take away anything from the Switch 2 here. 17 million units is great. It sold 7 more million since the last time we had a financial report. When last we talked, it was a 10 million seller with about 17 to 20 million games. Well, now we can see that it is at 17 million units, and the games have gotten that much more. 17 million more. So now we're at 37 million games sold for the Nintendo Switch 2, an absurd amount. This financial report on the outside screams success. It screams that the Switch 2 is going to be around for a while, Nintendo is going to continue to succeed, and these games are going to continue to sell well. There's a big problem though, and I hate to do it. I hate to be that grifter. I'm not trying to be a hater for just hating's sake, but there is a big problem. Nintendo is digging themselves a hole right now. A hole I'm kind of scared they're not going to be able to get out of within about 10 years' time. Why do I say that? Well, that's because Donkey Kong Bananza, the biggest game of Nintendo's 2025 in terms of fan reception, only sold an additional 700,000 units since last we spoke about this over the entire holiday period. Donkey Kong Bananza couldn't even sell another million. In just 6 months, it sold a total of 4 million units, which is really, really good. But the problem is, the majority of that came within the first month of this game's release. About 3.49 million units did Donkey Kong Bananza sell back in the previous financial report. That was a great number. We were all excited to see 3.49 million. It meant that the series was selling pretty well. It meant that the game was getting out there, that people were really hyped about it. And then it did nothing. 0.76 million is a really, really bad number for Nintendo. Now, you might say I'm overreacting. You might say that it sold very well, that 4 million units is very good. Well, here's the problem. Last year, the holiday sales, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold more in the last quarter than Donkey Kong Bananza. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold another million copies in the last quarter. More than Donkey Kong Bonanza by over 300,000. And of course, that does put this game over 70 million copies sold. Incredible, amazing, the best-selling game in Nintendo's history outside of one other, the ever-elusive Wii Sports at 82 million units. 8 Deluxe will not be passing that, but it is still great to see it is number 2 on that list, and it continues to have success as the Switch 2 continues to be sold and as Switches continue to be sold, because now the Nintendo Switch, 155 million units. It is officially, my friends, the best-selling Nintendo console of all time, and is about 500,000 away from being the greatest-selling console of all time before Sony decided to inflate the PS2 numbers being 160 million. Whatever, if the Switch passes 156, that is when in our hearts we will know it is the highest-selling console. But back to the big problem, Donkey Kong Bonanza. This spells disaster for Nintendo moving forward. The Switch games had legs. This console is already proving it doesn't with these types of games. Donkey Kong Bonanza was up for Game of the Year. Game of the Year. This isn't like this at all because Mario is a totally different franchise, and if Mario is selling this poorly, then we've got even bigger problems. But this is kind of like if Mario Odyssey decided to sell like 7 million units at the gate, and then the next quarter we see that it only sold like less than 1 million or 1 to 2 million. It's like, whoa, that slowed down way too fast. Normally it would be selling and selling and selling. At least with the Switch and that experience that we have with it, we can tell it sells way more beyond the release date. Bonanza died. It's dead. It's not going to sell any more than this. I would be very, very shocked if another quarter comes and we see it sold more than 1 million. That would be incredibly shocking because of 2 reasons. One, the closer to the game's release, technically people are always going to be thinking about it in their minds. The more people talk about it, the more it gets popular, the more people experience it, that word of mouth continues to travel, and people are more interested in buying it. So technically, the further and further away we get from this game's release, the less likely it's going to be that this game is going to sell. Especially considering it was the launch year of this console, that this was the big single-player experience that was on the Nintendo Switch 2. Mario Kart World at launch, that was great. That's going to continue to sell, and we'll talk about those numbers in a bit. Donkey Kong Bonanza, that was it. That was the single player game, and it's not sold very well at all. And the second reason this is such a big deal is that it was nominated for Game of the Stinking Year. I said it already, it was Jeff Keighley's big Nintendo cop-in, right? They gave us out one Game of the Year category with this game, and of course that was giving people a little bit more exposure to this game. It gave people more reason to go out and buy it. It gave people another reason to think about it. And even with the Game Awards, it didn't matter. People didn't go out and buy this game. Even looking at other games here, Pokemon Legends ZA sold 12.3 million copies in 11 weeks. A great number, until you realize 8 million of those came from the Nintendo Switch, and the Switch 2 only accounted for about 4 million. Kirby Air Riders debuted with about 1.76 million copies sold. A great and respectable number for a series such as this, something as niche as this. But the next time we see this game, it will probably have hit 2 million, and then that's it. It's not going to hit any more than 2 million. It is absolutely a success for this type of game. Sakurai pushed it hard, and it really did work. It sold pretty well for the type of game it is, but that's it. It's not going to do anything more for the Switch 2 other than random people here and there. It's not that type of game to sell consoles. What about the other games that released last year? Well, Hybrid Warriors Age of Imprisonment did not make an appearance on this financial report whatsoever. And what that usually means is that a game didn't even hit that 1 million sales mark. They don't show it if it didn't hit 1 million. Even though Nintendo decided not to show us, Koei Tecmo did come out and say that by the end of January, the game had hit 1 million sales. Well, the problem is this financial report only goes through 2025, so even if it hit like 800, 900,000, they're probably waiting to show us that game until the next report where they can confirm 1 million plus sold. That is still not good. Now, this is a totally different time frame, different context, but Age of Calamity sold 4 million units on the Nintendo Switch. That was after the hype of Breath of the Wild, and it was a couple years after the console had already sold. It released during COVID when people were really excited about the Switch, were buying it even more. People were inside and were willing to take a risk on gameplay like that. Probably a lot of Nintendo fans hadn't played this type of game before. Even in the previous Hyrule Warriors game that released in 2018, that game didn't sell very well. The reason people bought this was specifically because of Breath of the Wild and the promise to tell that game's story. Well, Tears of the Kingdom obviously sold quite a bit less, not like too much, but like 8 to 10 million less than Breath of the Wild. And so it would make sense that if it sold about 8 to 10 million less, that Age of Imprisonment would sell quite a bit less as well. So even within the context of all of that, it is still a little bit disappointing, right? 1 million, not even 1 million by the time this report had come out. 1 million confirmed by Koei Tecmo now. It's a good number. It's a fine number, but it's going to die. It's not going to have legs. This is not the type of game that will have legs. Okay, well, what about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond? The big game for 8+ years we have all been hyped up for. Even before its reveal back in 2017, people were begging for Prime 4. We finally get it. It goes in development hell. It gets canceled. It gets restarted. We finally see it have all this drama with all the NPCs that probably deterred a lot of people from buying, and it released in December, and it's not here. It's not here from both the Nintendo Switch and the Switch 2 combined because it released on both platforms. It didn't even sell 1 million as of this report. But what about Mario Kart, right? It is the fastest selling Mario Kart game ever. It sold another 4.46 million copies within the span of this past report and has now sold officially 14 million copies in the last 7 months alone. It is already the 5th best-selling Mario Kart ever, surpassing Mario Kart 64. Honestly, this is great. There's not a lot that you can do to take away this number from Nintendo. It is amazing how many people love Mario Kart, are going out to buy it, and continue to buy, even though the Nintendo Switch 2 is expensive. Times are hard. The economy sucks. Oh wait, there is a way I can actually take this away from Nintendo as a big W. It's the pack-in game. This is the game that this was sold with. The console itself was sold with, and you could get it for cheaper. $450 for the console alone, $500 for the console plus Mario Kart. And oh, by the way, that bundle is over now. They're not selling any more of those bundles. There's no more of those in production. Moving forward, throughout the rest of this year, it will not have been a Mario Kart bundle. Any more Mario Kart sales we see, probably past the next report. The next report will probably continue with that. But the second to next report, like the one covering the second quarter, in the third quarter by the time we get there, that will be the one that we really get to see what Mario Kart sells like without the bundle. And I don't take that away from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe retroactively, because that game was bundled in with the Switch a lot. People continue to buy it even though the Switch isn't even on the market anymore. Like, the Switch obviously is getting more sales, but they didn't make a Switch bundle this past holiday. People went out and bought 1 million units of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe simply because it's a great game, because they wanted to buy it. With all the controversy surrounding Mario Kart World, I cannot imagine that this is going to keep up for this game. It's not at all going to reach the heights of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I can't imagine that unless they continue to bundle it in along the holiday season. And of course, we're not expecting it to reach the exact same heights. I'm not standing here saying it has to reach the Switch level of heights to be a success. That's almost impossible, okay? The Switch is now the best console Nintendo has ever had, period. In terms of sales, in terms of revenue, profit, in terms of every single dot you can cross, it is the best. Okay, I predicted that the Switch 2 would be around 100 million units by the time that console finished selling. And I think the games will follow suit in terms of it being about 30 to 40% less sales in terms of Switch to Switch 2 ratio. But overall, there's a problem. What is the problem? The games are not selling. The majority of Pokemon sales came from the Nintendo Switch, not the Switch 2. Mario Kart World, all those sales can be attributed to the bundle itself, because $80 is not a price tag most people are going to be happy with to purchase this game outright. Donkey Kong Bananza fell off a cliff. Fell off a cliff. You can't put it any other way than that. It sold 3.7 million. Great number. Then it only sold 4 million. Bad. This is really bad. Kirby Air Riders sold a respectable amount. 1.7 million is nothing to sneeze at. That's about what you would expect for a type of game like that. Hyrule Warriors, about 1 million, didn't make the report. Metroid Prime 4, didn't make the report. Now look, I'm not dooming and glooming here, okay? I just think there is going to be a problem for Nintendo moving forward if they don't change some things within this generation, and they don't change them fast. I have a video going out this weekend on why I believe the Switch 2 is shaping up to be the next Wii. And what I mean by that, in a little bit of a nutshell here, go watch that video when you get the chance to see exactly what I mean. But the big problem is that the Wii sold like gangbusters. Over 100 million units of that console were sold. It was a huge success in terms of financials. The problem was it didn't carry a lot of hardcore gamers or make a lot of core Nintendo fans moving into the next generation. The Wii U was confusing and had a lot of problems and didn't make great games, and a lot of that came from the lackluster habits that were developed during the Wii era. I can see so many bad habits being developed right now for the Switch 2. I'm more worried about the Switch 3 than I am the Switch 2. The Switch 2 will probably end up continuing to be a great seller. It will sell pretty well. The console itself is selling like gangbusters. You can't take that away from it. But the problem will continue to be the actual games themselves. And on top of that, the type of culture that they are setting for their fan base, and the type of people that are going to be willing to invest in Nintendo moving forward. Like it or not, even though I don't really agree with this, people are out there saying Nintendo is a horrible, greedy corporation that you should not be giving your money to. What this really does feel like to me, and I'm sorry to say it, it feels like the Switch 2 is capitalizing on the hype of the console reveal itself. It's capitalizing on the momentum that Nintendo built from the Switch era and is going to continue on the tailcoat of that. By the time it needs to create its own momentum, I hope that they have big games. I hope that they continue to push stuff that will make people change their minds. If we get ourselves a 3D Mario by the end of this year, consider a lot of my worries quelled depending on what that game looks like, how it sells, and what Nintendo does with it. If next year we get ourselves a new look at a 3D Zelda and a Smash Brothers and all these different big franchises start to come a little bit by little, then maybe we'll have ourselves a little bit of a salvaged situation. And of course, these games are coming. I am not sitting here saying that Smash is not coming or 3D Mario isn't coming. All of these games have to do well though. They have to be good, because the problem has been for Nintendo in this era, games that are different and niche. Air Riders, Hyrule Warriors, Metroid Prime 4, those are niche or spin-offs. Even Donkey Kong Bonanza, we are seeing the IP did not grow the way that Nintendo wanted it to. If Nintendo was really getting their way, it would have doubled in sales over the holiday. It would have hit about 6 million, which is what I personally had predicted when I was thinking about this. I was laying in bed and I was thinking, okay, what am I going to have to say about this and this and that? Well, Donkey Kong will probably sell another 3 million. That'll be really good. Okay, this will do that. It didn't. It did not sell 3 more million. It only sold less than 1 million, and that is so bad. Pokemon didn't sell hardly a lot on the Switch 2 alone. It sold more on the Switch. So that is telling Nintendo that they need to continue to produce games for the Switch, which means that the Switch 2 is going to be even less valuable for Nintendo fans. There's just going to be a lot of problems. But a Pokemon Gen 10, which is probably coming this year due to a lot of those leaks and rumors we had seen last year, It's probably going to be able to fix a lot of this for a lot of people, but again, Pokemon continues to be nothing but controversial. Even though the leaks do show that game looking a lot better than most people could have ever anticipated, it's still going to be Pokemon, and there's still going to be problems because Game Freak has been so lazy with this franchise for so long. I really am not trying to doom and gloom here. I'm trying to look at this from a realistic lens and say, this is not that good. Now, of course, this is the beginning of the Switch 2 lifecycle. If you look back on the Switch lifecycle, numbers were probably kind of similar to this, and at the time, that was a big success. Seeing a game like Kirby Air Rider selling 1.7 million back on the Switch would have been amazing. It would have been like a huge revolution because it would have shown that people were interested in buying games like that again, and that the Nintendo audience had come back. But we're in different times, man. The Switch was a success. It brought everybody back. Everyone and their mother. Everyone loved Nintendo. They got such goodwill from all of the Switch. Now here we are on the Switch 2. From the reveal, from the lack of communication, from the lack of massive games, Nintendo made a lot of Nintendo games. And I'm not going to sit here and complain about that because I enjoyed a lot of 2025. But big games like Mario and Zelda didn't come and haven't come yet. And we need to be objective about that and say this console is probably going to have better days ahead with those games, but if they don't continue to make that stuff happen right now, if they don't make things happen now. When I'm recording this, it is February 3rd, the morning of when this was revealed, the morning of when all this happened. There's going to be a direct within the week or two. There's rumors from Nate the Hate saying it's going to be a partner showcase, which I believe him with my life. But there are also rumors going around from Nash Weedle, who has been pretty solid up to this point, and even Switchforce throwing his hat into the ring, which he did with the last direct. And they're all saying that a 3D Mario is coming. Now, Nate the Hate hasn't confirmed this specifically, and I don't trust hardly any leak or rumor unless it's from Nate, but it makes a lot of sense. A 3D Mario this year would be desperately needed for Nintendo. It would be another reason to buy this console, and it would explain why half the Odyssey team worked on Donkey Kong Bananza, but the other half were not at all listed in those credits, including Koizumi. But if Nate is right, and I believe he is, the partner showcase will come and go, and there's probably going to be something weird with it. There's been a lot of talk about some first party in with this third party game, something maybe like a Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, where Koei Tecmo is able to use the Zelda stuff IP. So I don't know. Maybe this will be good. Maybe it'll be interesting. Maybe they'll do a partner showcase this week and then a regular one the week after that because there have been some talk about that. I don't know. It's weird. February is going to shape up to be a pretty substantial month for Nintendo. But this financial report, I mean, this is the time of year that they report on that people are supposed to sell and buy a lot. The holiday season is supposed to be the biggest part of the gaming industry for everyone. Now, of course, it was across the board down. All of the gaming industry took a big hit in the holiday season for reasons we've discussed over and over and over again, so I'm not going to hold Nintendo wholly responsible for all of this. But there does need to be a little bit of blame and a little bit of finger pointing back at Nintendo here, and they have to get their act together. They have to start producing stuff worthy of buying. The first year was for the hardcore fans. I truly do believe that. And towards this beginning of the year, it's for more hardcore fans. We're getting Yoshi. We're getting Mario Tennis, which can be a little bit more overall appealing to people. Then we're getting Tomodachi Life in April. That's a huge game. And now I see from Pokemon Legends ZA's number that having that on the Switch is going to be incredibly successful for Nintendo, and people will probably also buy it on the Switch too. But it's not Switch 2 exclusive, and that's a problem for Nintendo because it's not a reason to buy the Switch 2. Now, yes, I'm glad that it's on the Switch. I'm glad that more people are able to buy this game and that it is being sold to them. It looks amazing. It's the best game of the year thus far for me, but I can't help but worry. I can't help but say there's going to be some issues for the Switch 2 and for Nintendo moving into the future if they don't announce some hard hitters and soon. If the June Direct comes and goes, or whenever that next real big meaty one happens and we don't get a big look at Splatoon Raiders, we don't get a big look at a brand new game like Luigi's Mansion 4, like Mario, we're going to have some issues. And that's all I'm saying from this report, because for a brand new console's launch over a holiday season with big games like Bonanza, we're not seeing the numbers that we should be seeing yet. So I'm not pressing the panic button by any means. This console is the fastest selling ever. It's going to be a success. It's great. And I love the Switch too. But we need to look and we need to see what we're seeing and actually talk about what we're seeing and not have some rose-tinted glasses on. We need to have our real glasses on. So that is the financial report. I love talking about all these. I've been covering every single quarter ever since this channel has existed. Thank you for sticking to the end. A lot of this is very nitty-gritty and I don't ever expect these videos to do super well. But this is a pretty big one, right? There's a lot going on here and a lot that I think is happening in the future. Stay tuned for Saturday's video to kind of figure out more about what that mindset is. Why am I comparing the Switch 2 to the Wii? There are a lot of kind of jarring similarities there. So thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you did like this video, make sure you like it, subscribe to join the channel, and click the notification bell so you know exactly when my videos release. Give me a comment down below telling me about all of your thoughts about this, the process of this, what you think about the sales numbers. Am I crazy? Am I kind of dooming here? I'm really not trying to. I'm trying to look at it from a realistic lens, but I could understand if someone was like, man, this dude's nothing but negative. Oh, and also please consider joining my membership program, just a couple bucks a month to get some early access. And also consider joining my membership program, just a couple bucks a month, to support me as a content creator and get a couple cool perks for yourself. To see what was happening with all of these numbers and the previous financial report, click on the left side of your screen. It was a lot more optimism back then. And click on the right side of your screen to see my video breaking down Tomodachi Life and why I believe Living the Dream is a massive game, the biggest one of Nintendo's year. Thanks again for making it to the end. Make sure you have yourself a phenomenal day. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I will see you all in the next video.